Dino Brown comes out, turns into Blade, and wipes them out. Cutscene.
It's a great
Boom.
finish. That
That's
should be an alternate ending.
Soundstripe.
Welcome into another episode of Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast where if you're like us and you miss the days of packed movie theaters and movie stores, and this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Caleb Suggs. Joining me is one of my co-hosts, Dakota Lowry.
What's up, everybody?
Sick Dakota Lowry. And also Ernie Ferguson.
I know you can be overwhelmed and you can be underwhelmed, but can you just be whelmed?
And
this is a fair question.
Sorry. This week we are doing 10 Things I Hate About You, which is a teen romantic comedy, and not a list I made when Dakota made me watch Lost in America.
You went way past 10 on that.
Yeah, the list is still ongoing.
But I feel like this list has been going on for a few years now, Suggs.
That's not true. I love you with my whole heart. You're my bro.
Until it comes to a movie that we pick on a podcast.
Yeah, or you making fun of my shoes.
Oh man,
well, they're stylish.
Shots fired there.
They're stylish. They didn't like you.
Anyways, all right. 1999's 10 Things I Hate About You. This is an Ernest Ferguson pick.
Yeah, I just 1999. There was a lot of different picks, but it's one of those things I've been debating about a teenage movie. There's of course all the John Hugheses, but I knew I would hit John Hughes. My problem is
not you.
Yeah, I know that is one of my problems is not hitting all the John Hughes movies like right in a row. And to be honest, this is a movie I've only seen bits and pieces of, so I had never seen the movie all the way through, and so I was curious about it. That's for sure.
That's
a movie that I had seen.
Yeah,
a movie that I had seen. Also, that Ferg hadn't.
Yeah, but you're married to Kamei Lowry. There's no way you could be married to Kamei Lowry and not see this movie.
Touche.
Plus, also, it came out in 99, so I'm 25. Yeah, I was 25 years old. So again, this is a little past my age as far as to go in and watch it. I mean, now again, I can understand if like people that were in high school and things of that nature. But the one thing that interests me though is I'm a sucker for Shakespeare adaptations, anyways. So that was what I was really kind of curious about, because I also do like the genre of teen movies, because that's one thing I really had to think about going into this movie is, okay, this movie's not made for the 51-year-old that's watching it. It's made for teenagers, and then also have to understand, you are somewhat limited on what you can do since you're basing it on The Taming of the Shrew, which, as we go into this, which I really had to lean into my thoughts about how the men interacted with the women and how they kind of treated them in this, to truly kind of think about it as, okay, this is portraying the Shakespeare, which was 100 times worse as far as the treatment was.
This also completes all of our 90s years. We've officially, this will be the movie that we picked a movie every year from the 90s.
That is true.
And I think as I'm watching this, it became apparent how much this movie had an influence on what we vision a teen romantic comedy movie as far as in my era. I don't know, Dakota, you might could tell this too, but did you get a feel like when you were watching it, because obviously me and you are the same age and we grew up in the Disney, channel movie era with the High School Musicals and the Camp Rocks. Did you get like a feel like just kind of, obviously it's a little different because this is more of like a they're talking about sex and stuff like that, and cuss words and all that you're not going to get in a Disney Channel movie. But the overall vibe of, just, a slacker type dude, or, with a girl that, just kind of the feel they don't go together, and just different things like that. The kind of, you get that feeling that we got in movies that we were growing up with.
Yeah, this movie definitely, I think, almost set the standard for the 2000s. Like, like you mentioned, those camp rock and teen movies and stuff. Because I mean, you had your over the top feminists. You had your jock that was the love interest of somebody. You had the dark boy love interest that was, you wouldn't be like, and I could think of all of these characters and name all of these characters in, like, like you mentioned, like Camp Rock is one, that brings up, like, this had all of the characters, like your stereotypical characters in this movie. And I personally, I think they did a good job with it, as far as setting that tone.
There is a
Well,
difference, between these films and the 80s films too. The 80s films, I think, truly took themselves more seriously, good or bad. Because you watch like The Breakfast Club, that has some fun to it, but it has some darkness to it. Also, Pretty in Pink also. Whereas this, you're talking about this point in time, you have like Can't Hardly Wait, She's All That, uh, you know, Never Been Kissed, the movies like that, where it is more of a, yeah, there's some, I wouldn't say darkness to much of them, but it is more lighthearted than some of those the 80s movies. Not saying that all those 80 teen movies, like Weird Science and like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, even though if you watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High, it's got some darkness to it also in there. So but this is more of a fun type of a feel to it, and that starts from the very beginning and until the very end also.
uh, 10 Things I Hate About You is a 1999 American teen romantic comedy film directed by Gil Junger in his film directorial debut, and starring Julia Stiles, Heath Ledger, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Larissa Olenek. The screenplay by Karen McCall Lutz and Kirsten Smith is a modernization of William Shakespeare's comedy The Taming of the Shrew, retold in a late 1990s American high school setting. The film was released on March 31st, 1999. It grossed $53.7 million on a budget of $13 million. And Ernie, what is the Rotten Tomatoes score?
The Rotten Tomato score for this is a 71 and a 69 on the popcorn meter.
And and you've already mentioned it, but obviously like I just said, it's a modernization of a William Shakespeare play, which we get a lot in romantic comedies. Just off the top of my head, I know She's All That. I mean, not She's All That. She's the man. She's the man. I can't think of which one it is, but I know it's based off of.
Oh,
I think it's the 12th night. 12th night, right?
Is that what I thought that was Pygmalion, like My Fair Lady. There is something that is the 12th night. I just can't remember what it was. But yeah, but you have O, which is another Julia Stiles movie, which is like Othello, and then there was well, you have, of course, the pinnacle of teen movies, which is Romeo plus Juliet, which is in a different.
That's not even a. I don't even know if that's a modernization. That's just straight up Romeo and Juliet, but it takes place in. No, I mean, it's literally got the same dialogue and everything.
Yeah, but everything else about it is modernized.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like the 1970s Romeo and Juliet that they showed me in high school. Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes ain't quite the same actors that I grew up with on Romeo and Juliet. But you do see them tie in here every now and then to other movies.
We're talking about the same Romeo and Juliet. I'm guessing it's probably the same one we were shown in high school, where obviously you have the scene where you have to skip through it because it's not.
You're like, what? Did I see that? No, wait.
Especially, let me show this movie to high school boys. I'm sure that'll go over very well.
Well, I mean, the problem is that you can't be sure what you saw because you're bored to tears because it's not the highest quality of movie anyways. You're just like going, oh my goodness. So you're half snoozing and then somebody says, did you see it? No. Yeah, It would something that Miss Perky would show in her class if she were showing Romeo and Juliet.
Hey, the action scene between was it Romeo and then Mercutio and then Tybalt. That's right. I got those names right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ninth grade English class coming at you.
Attaboy.
As for the time period of the movie it was made, it wasn't bad. I've
No.
seen a lot. I've seen a lot worse movies in school. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
But
somebody would show Pearl Harbor.
oh, I have never mind. I have something I was going to say, but I'm going to leave it at that. But I don't. It really goes to show you the Shakespeare. I don't. What is it about it that it screams romantic comedy? The Shakespeare's work. I don't know, Ernie. You're the teacher here.
I don't know. I think, well, one thing I think that the one problem I think that for me in high school was the two Shakespeares that I got exposed to were Romeo, Juliet, and Julius Caesar. Oh dear heavens to Murgatroyd. Those both bored me to tears. It wasn't until I got into college where something like The Tempest and King Lear and things of that nature where I was like, man, that's pretty good. But there is that there I mean you have the core values of Romeo and Juliet of having this forbidden love. You know, here you have the idea of, wanting something so bad that you hire somebody else or you're trying to get somebody else to help you get what you want. I think there are universal themes in Shakespeare that, despite the language and despite how it's written, still, you know, leans true to. I mean, it's timeless in what you do. It's kind of what I think, and I'm a history teacher and not an English teacher, so don't give me too much just because I'm a teacher here.
Well, I mean, I also think you have to think about that history repeats itself, and what's going to make money is what's going to sell. And I mean, if you really stop and think about how popular Shakespeare was at the time that he was
Mm,
there, I mean, if we're being honest, there's not a lot of original ideas in movies nowadays, and even in the '80s and '90s and 2000s, as I'm realizing as we're watching these movies, there's very, very, very few things that are original takes on things. A lot of them are adaptations of plays like this, or they're remakes, or they're things like that. And look, Shakespeare was popular when he was there, and I mean, if we're being 100% honest here, most people, most kids aren't going to go see a play at maybe a college production or on a Broadway show or
mhm,
something like that. But they'll sit down and watch 10 Things I Hate About You. They'll sit down
yeah.
and watch, these other modern adaptations of it. So I, I think there's two folds to this. Number one, I think they saw this because they were able to, they realized they were able to sell it. But number two, I also think that they're able to target this at kids maybe as a history lesson, as a early English lesson of, hey, like, we're not gonna be able to get you to sit down and listen to the these and those and thous and that's, but we can get down and sit you. We can put Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles and Joseph Gordon-Levitt on a screen, and you'll sit here and watch it, and you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
And as we can see, almost 25 years later, that people still like it.
I don't know. Maybe it's the journalism in me, but I actually enjoyed Romeo and Juliet and Shakespeare when I was in school.
I'm
Well,
not, I'm not saying it was bad,
I
but
saw. I mean, I saw, which I guess they were all school related, so I guess I didn't go to them on my own. But I saw several Shakespeare plays when I was in high school. Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth. I saw a really good one of Macbeth.
yeah. So I mean, that no, I like Shakespeare, like Hamlet. I can't believe I forgot Hamlet and Macbeth too. And I even took a college class, like a kind of a summer class. It was scripts of Romeo and Juliet, where we just looked at different versions of it. I mean, I even brought in the songs by Dire Straits, and just kind of analyzed that too. Again, it's timeless. It's just, as a ninth grader, man, I couldn't appreciate Romeo and Juliet, much less, what it was saying. What I did see as a ninth grader, I was like, "You kidding me? I'm not killing myself over some girl I just met." Now again, there are some people that feel that way. That, just like Cameron was struck in love. At the first 2 seconds he looked at Bianca. Uh, but again, I think it's one of those things. Well, kind of like Kat was saying. Why don't we look at Sylvia Plath or somebody else like that? Why always Shakespeare? You know, because I think there are universal themes in Shakespeare, whether it's comedy or whether it's romance. And just like the sonnet, even if you have him rapping the sonnet, I mean, it's still you know people that's a language of love, and whether we like it or whether we're good at it, it is something that we all understand.
Well, Cameron James, a new student at Padua High School in Seattle area, immediately becomes smitten with beautiful and popular sophomore Bianca Stratford. Geeky Michael Ekman warns him that she is vapid and conceited, and that her overprotective single father Walter, and a doctor worried about teenage pregnancy, does not allow her or her shrewish older sister Kat, a senior, to date. Kat is accepted to Sarah Lawrence College in New York, but Walter wants her to stay close to home.
Obstetrician, you can't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just better to skip over a word. Kat is accepted to Sarah Lawrence College in New York, but Walter wants her to stay close to home and attend his alma mater, the University of Washington. Bianca wishes to date affluent senior Joey Donner, but Walter will not allow his daughters to date until they are graduated. Frustrated by Bianca's insistence and Kat's rebelliousness, Walter relents and declares that Bianca may date only when Kat does, knowing that Kat's antisocial attitude will greatly complicate it. So, well, basically, like I said earlier, about this movie really being an influence to the teen, movies that we grew up with. Here you are again. You got the new student at a new high school. He immediately becomes smitten with a girl that he sees just instantly. You got, you meet the character, which they didn't even mention Heath Ledger's character in the opening paragraph, but you've got the rebel dude, and you got the rebellious girl, and then you got the jock. So all the stereotypes that we expect, that we grew up in teen movies we grew up with, are brought in right here. Wouldn't you say, Dakota?
Oh, absolutely, they brought in right here. The other thing I think this movie does is it comes out the gate swinging with a quick whip comedy. It comes out, and I was forgive me, I'm trying to remember some of the things, but there was just a lot of like really quick, short one-liners when the characters were being introduced that just really just made me kind of chuckle when I was sitting there watching them. And I'm kicking myself for not writing them down, but um, yeah, but I mean, even like the father throughout the whole movie, man, the overprotective father, uh, and dude, I'm sitting like I said, I know I keep referencing Camp Rock, but like I said, I'm naming every single one of these characters, like paralleling them 100% to this movie. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
like you said, I think you're right about coming out swinging. I mean, first of all, just the introductory of the kind of like spray paint letterheads of the movie and and the actors and all that kind of stuff, and you get to see Seattle as a character, which we've talked about that a couple of times about how cities become a character. Seattle's definitely a character in this movie, but I like how you introduce Kat. You have bare naked ladies with four bubbly teenagers, in a convertible, and she drives up in this gas guzzler from the '70s playing Joan Jett. That's her, and she's just looking at them with disdain, and they won't make eye contact with her all because they're scared of her. But then we're introduced, to Miss Perky, that which the counselor. I mean, she's sitting there writing
Right,
a
smut.
novel. Yeah, she's writing 50 Shades of Grey, but like even worse fan fiction than that, you know. And just she doesn't. I mean, she doesn't care at all. She's just wants to write her novel. And then and then so we get the Cameron so we get the Cat intro in the car. We get the Cameron intro about the new kid. And he's just like stuttering all over himself, which is like pure Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Then you're introduced to Patrick with Heath Ledger's character about having the bratwurst out of his pants to show the cafeteria lady. By the way, there's a lot of stuff that nowadays, one, the teachers would be fired, and two, the kids would be suspended. Uh, so, but then in every teen movie, you have the introduction of the groups. As Michael's introducing Cameron, he's walking around. You have the beautiful people, the coffee kids, the white Rastas, the Cowboys was funny to me also. And the future MBAs, and then don't even think about it. And so again, that's where you start to see Joey too. And then you see Bianca, which, just the cluelessness of Bianca, which, I like my Skechers, but I love my Prada backpack, that just different quotes like that, it was a good introduction, and it came out, and there was just lines being thrown left and right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
like
we didn't even touch on the staff. I mean, the staff, the cast.
oh yeah,
We for a 1999 movie, and obviously some of these castings are before they really hit big, but just a great cast: Heath Ledger, Julia Stiles, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. But you mean first of all, was she a counselor or the principal? I thought she was the principal.
no,
I
she was
thought
a counselor. I thought she was
she
a
was
Counselor?
counselor.
Was she a
yeah,
counselor? Okay. Well, either way, I mean that's crap. Her name
Allison
is
Janney.
from The West Wing.
Yeah.
So I mean, just a really great cast for a 1999's teen movie.
Oh, I didn't know this. Kamei, of course, Kamei loves this movie, so she was filling my ear with a bunch of stuff while we were watching it. But Heath Ledger actually beat out Ashton Kutcher and somebody else for this
I
role.
remember hearing that about Ashton. I can't see Ashton Kutcher in this film.
I
Again, to
can't
me,
either.
when you look at
Josh
it,
Hartnett.
oh yeah, I'm not a big Hartnett fan, but to me, this is Heath Ledger coming out. It's coming out swinging, especially when we talk about the "I Love You, Baby" scene. I think that really kind of showed his chops, and then Joseph Gordon-Levitt playing Joseph Gordon-Levitt all of this entire movie. It really kind of shows and picks up right there. Um, so yeah, I thought that was good. I thought that the younger sister, I can't remember the name that played Brianna, I thought she shined better than Julia Stiles for me, at least. That's just kind of my hot take on that.
Wow,
When
that kind of is odd.
when
No, I'm
Cameron
kidding.
asks Bianca out, she informs him of her father's new rule and suggests he finds someone willing to date Kat so that she can freely date Joey. He selects Australian bad boy Patrick Verona, who initially frightens him with his attitude. Michael insists by convincing Joey to pay Patrick to take Kat out, believing that would allow Joey to date Bianca. Patrick agrees to the deal, but Kat initially rebuffs his first few advances. After Michael and Cameron assist him by probing Bianca for information on Kat's preferences, Patrick begins to win Kat's interest. She goes to a party with him, which enables Bianca to tag along greatly, upsetting Walter. So, wouldn't be a teen movie without some ridiculous plan that doesn't really make sense on paper, and we get that here with you want to go out with this girl, well, let's convince this guy to pay this guy so he can go out with her, and then in the end you can go out with her, because that makes a lot of sense on paper, especially when the guy that you're convincing is the teenage heartthrob at this school who has all the money and the nice car. And but just the entrance of Heath Ledger's character, it's a great entrance. You get, I mean, and you get, I love everything you get with we know how high rumors are in high school, and so you get him flying with his character and everything about that he's done, and he sold his liver for what was it, a stereo or car stereo
Yes,
or
for stereo
something.
speakers. Yeah,
That's so high school. But yeah, I mean, just to go back to the plan, I mean, just watch it. Like, I still don't really understand. Even when I was watching it, it had been a really long time since I'd seen this. When I was watching it with Callie, who, by the way, did watch the entire movie, Ernie. So you did pick a movie that she watched the entire,
there
which
you go.
that might have partly been because she was very excited that you picked a movie for her.
There you go.
So, but
I'm
she
glad.
didn't
I'm glad.
watch it.
I'm glad I gave y'all family time together. So there you go.
Yes, it was nice that she actually watched the movie, although it was kind of annoying that this person who never usually watches the whole movie when we're at home, anytime I looked at my phone, she was like, "You're not even watching."
So in this point in time that we're talking about, you talk about the plan. So I like the introduction that you have with Cameron to Patrick. You know, he comes to talk to him. He's got the French book, and and then Patrick just drills a hole in it. You know, they also see him in the science class. He's got a switchblade out. You know, as they're dissecting frogs, he's playing with flames. And I don't know. I guess Heath Ledger's friend didn't want him smoking in class because he took the cigarette that he lit up and like got rid of that. You know, so that was a good example of you have the good example of the three different types of guys. The Joey who's just the underwear tube sock model. You know, he's going after the hemorrhoid cream commercial. You have the doe-eyed, innocent guy in Cameron, and then the bad boy that everybody thinks is a bad boy in Patrick. You know, they did a good job of selling those different things, especially like building up the lore of Patrick too. You know, and I now since I have a daughter, I really like the dad's interaction with the girls. You know, and especially the quips that they came back to him about, because he was talking about that when he started talking about the two rules that he has, but then when he talked about the 15-year-old that he delivered the twins with it, and what something like what would she say to him? And Bianca says, "Well, I'm a crack whore that should have made my skeezy boyfriend use a condom." I was just like, "Oh, okay." I can see sometimes my daughter maybe say something like that to me back. I like that interaction between the two.
Yeah, there was a lot that kind of took place inside of this whole section through here that really kind of stood out. Which really this even gets into the party, doesn't it? Um,
Yes. Yeah, we
it
go
is
through a lot
isn't
here.
yeah, we really did go through a lot. But I mean, just the whole section. I think they do a good job in here establishing characters and establishing their roles through in the movie and with the part that they're going to play throughout it. I mean, like we said, the coming up with this ridiculous plan, but then you see Patrick's kind of intrigued, I guess is the word to put, by the challenge, and especially when he goes up and he starts trying to talk to her, and she initially rejects him a few times, and you know, and I think it builds that challenge for him in there, But then even when you get into the party though, and the plan falls apart, and it's like you said, like the plan didn't make a whole lot of sense in the first place. I think dude thought that she was as smitten by him as he was by her, and that's where the whole thing works out at. But they get to the party, and he's just upset by the whole thing.
And I think it's funny. You see that, like you mentioned, you see Patrick starting to have. I mean, he's doing this as because he's being paid at first, but you see him start to genuinely have this, like you said, intrigue and this interest in this girl, and you just know because this is just how these movies work. You're sitting there in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, they're gonna start to follow each other, and then it's gonna come out later that he was paid to do this, and it's gonna wreck everything, and you just know in the back of your head that's gonna happen, but it doesn't make the journey not fun. But yeah, at the end of the day, you're like, you know what this is gonna happen. But yeah, you're right. He definitely did. Even though the plan probably still didn't make a lot of sense. I guess when you're that smitten, you think anything just is, we got to
Hmm.
do everything. But he definitely thought that she felt the same way about him, which is funny because they really didn't have a ton of interaction before, other than like a brief French tutorial. But yeah, you see, but it does not take her long to realize that Joey is not for her. It was a little surprising how fast she goes through that.
Which
Well,
kudos to her.
yeah, but I mean, well, she goes back before this when her and Kat started talking. She said she happened to like being adored. Thank you. And so having Joey kind of show that adornment early on, especially an older guy, that really kind of like piqued her interest. And then also now she has another guy that adores her, that really kind of like perks her up to that, you know. One of the things I think that gets lost is just the interactions between Michael and Cameron with Patrick. when they started talking the plans, when and Patrick says, I mean, does she have beer flavored nipples? I'm like, what is that? And he's saying that, and then that going back to what we said earlier about him selling his liver when they're at the bar, which again, he's at the bar smoking and drinking, and Michael's asking, should you be drinking without a liver? And so just little things like that really kind of just like it was just really kind of funny. And then when they told her, he was that she was looking for a pretty guy, and he said, "You're telling me I'm not pretty?" And the other Cameron and Michael didn't know what to say with that reaction. I
Gorgeous.
thought, yeah, it was just that was really really good interaction, you know. But it also goes and going back to what you're talking about, Bianca. I didn't sneak out of my house very often, if ever. But if you're going to sneak out of a house and you've got a 2-story house and you've got like 300 doors, why go down the stairs and tiptoe, out the front door? You know, Even though she told her dad, she was just going to go to have a small study group with her friends, and her dad says, otherwise known as an orgy, which made me laugh because again, that's the dad, that's all before we even get to the party scene,
Mhm.
And it,
I'm just trying to imagine myself trying to sneak out when I was in high school because Jamie Suggs was is still is a night owl, and I just I was never that kind of guy that wanted to sneak out, but I'm just imagining how priceless it would be if I had tried to.
yeah, no, my my brother did all that stuff, so I saw what not to do, and I was like, even though I was the third child, so I was the youngest, my parents retired by the time I was around, anyways. But I was too stupid to find something to go to these parties or something like that. I was too lame to do that, so I hardly ever did anything. Go out, much less have to wear, the simulated pregnancy belly around the house too.
Wasn't this also the party though where it was the guy's revenge on
Yes, the revenge on Bogey, because Bogey
yeah,
kicked
Bogey.
Michael out of the future MBAs. Which
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
it's amazing. Okay, so teenagers are notorious for not being on time, anyways. But all these kids showed up at exactly the same time. And how Bogey didn't know that those flyers, because it was like looked like a 4-story to 5-story stairwell that they threw it down, and how Bogey didn't know that was just kind of funny altogether, anyways.
Did you
But then
go ahead? Sorry, I was
no, you're
interrupting.
good. But and that's where this party scene is, and that's again, I did go to some parties in high school. I ain't never seen anything like these. It's in all these movie tropes, whether it's 16 Candles or Can't Hardly Wait or this one, or just like where the whole school comes to parties. No, the whole schools don't ever come to parties like this, but it makes for good entertainment.
Did y'all see when all the kids did flood in? He goes to open the door and he says, "Oh, that must be so and so with the brie." And then there's a
The
kid,
kid has
and
the
it's got the tray of brie, just walking, being pushed by the crowd up through there. Oh man! Also, the one thing that I didn't really understand about this was why was a cat's immediate solution just get drunk?
She's
well,
a stupid teenager.
no,
I
again,
mean, fair, but
well, I guess it was her only reaction to seeing the possibility of her sister go down the same path that she went down. And so again, adolescent mind, you're at a party and it just walks in front of you. You're not talking about fully developed brains, anyways. But again, her
Mhm.
history with Joey that they go into later on in the movie, and then seeing the possibility that her sister, who she later on in the movie talks about trying to protect, you know, possibly going down the same path. That it just, I think it was one of those overwhelming things. And I mean that you look at human beings, they do some dumb things when they're overwhelmed emotionally. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think the drinking wasn't the worst. It was the bad dancing that was the worst. That was some. I mean, you ruined a Biggie song with that dance. I mean, I think I might have been able to dance better than that.
I guarantee you,
Uh,
every drunk teenage male there thought it was the best.
okay.
100%.
So you say what you say about that, but again, this is one of those little things that can be drilled into my head 14 times while watching this movie. I love you, sweetheart. Uh, that dance that she did was like completely freestyled and actually landed her next movie in the last dance or whatever it was that she did.
Yeah, and that's the thing that the Last Dance was she danced worse in that movie than she did in this movie. But
And I've
you
never
know,
seen it, so
hey,
Uh,
you're not. Don't waste your time.
uh, maybe that should be my pick.
I'm
Uh,
gonna tell you, so
uh,
Ferg, I've wasted it on worse movies.
Well, at the party, Kat becomes upset upon seeing Bianca with Joey and responds by getting intoxicated. Patrick attends to her and she starts to open up to him, expressing her interest in forming a band. When Kat attempts to kiss him, Patrick pulls away, causing her to depart, infuriated. Meanwhile, Bianca upsets Cameron by ignoring him for Joey, but soon realizes that Joey is indeed shallow and self absorbed. When she asks Cameron to drive her home, he admits his feelings for her are indeed genuine, and her treatment of him has frustrated him, and reconcile, reconcile, she kisses him in response. I just words are hard tonight for me.
I get it.
um, but well, I mean, we just went through a ton of this, so I mean, basically everything that's in this. But we will come back to just getting to see that relationship start to develop more between Patrick and Kat, and I like that they spent a lot of time in that movie developing it. It's not just oh, she's a little bit different than I thought she was. So I'm really interested in her now, and so there's actually some depth to it. And man, dude's a gentleman, doesn't take advantage of her, and apparently that just makes her so mad.
that there's a couple of things that to me go against Kat's character that they established. This is one where yes, I can imagine being hurt by it, but again, with your past experience that you had with Joey, isn't this what you want? And then at the end of the movie, we'll talk about that later. But I'll tell you what, Heath Ledger was before his time because he had her on concussion protocol right off the bat. I mean, he knew how to deal with the concussion
Yeah,
because he don't
man.
sleep, don't sleep, don't sleep. That's that. I like how what she did tell him. Who needs affection when I have blind hatred. That was another one of those quotables there from her. Uh, so again, and this also shows us again the Cameron Bianca thing, where again that relationship is just kind of weird. That the end of the car scene where she ends up kissing him, and what Heath Ledger said to Cameron also if you don't let somebody tell you what you deserve or keep you from getting what you think you deserve. That's like, okay, I got to remember this is kind of based on Shakespeare type of stuff. Like, you don't deserve the girl. You don't. It's not something that you're owed, type of thing. And then he acts like a big butthurt baby in the car. But just because he said she was beautiful, that changed her mind about him. Uh, but again, we are talking about high school kids too.
Well, I think with the whole Cameron Bianca thing, I can understand his frustration. Maybe because he's in his mind. You have to think in his mind, he's went through this whole like elaborate plan for her to be with him, and then it ends up that she's not. And in his mind, he's just feeling like he's just used, and like, oh, she's just using him to get to Joey.
Yeah.
And I know I can almost justify. I don't really get. Um, I don't really understand. Why, like you said, why he's kind of taking it out. Which again, they're teens. They're not really emotionally mature people. But like going back to what you said about Kat and her character, man, like I think that's the thing that really frustrated me about her character the most throughout this whole movie was that she's built this whole shtick,
Hmm.
where she's independent and she's of herself and she's like doesn't need a man or doesn't do this and like wants to be respected, like you said, and then you have Cameron, who, in my opinion, makes the smartest decision of the entire movie in this one moment right here, where he's not
Yeah.
going to take advantage of her. You know, it's like you said, like it just goes against her entire thing. Like it goes against her entire personality choice, you know, and like it really frustrated me watching it.
So this kind of leads me to two things I usually said in my classroom, and it usually was aimed at girls too. And and I don't know if I said it when Kamei was in class and you were in class, but I remember saying it. I said it a year in and year out. And one, you know, a boy's not worth losing yourself. You know, losing your identity. Your identity shouldn't be so and so's boyfriend, a girlfriend. You know, because again, teaching high school for so long, you've seen someone who was independent and things of that nature. Then all of a sudden, because they wanted a boyfriend, they lost all that independence and they lost who they were. You know, and I couldn't stand that. And then the other thing that always talked about, especially with I tell eighth grade girls when they're going to ninth grade, I said, beware of senior and junior boys. I said, there's a reason that they don't date senior and junior girls. I said, because the senior and junior girls have seen through all their BS. The freshman girls haven't. So they're dumb enough to believe all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of the Joey Bianca thing right there. It took her forever, and even Chastity, that she didn't care. She was just happy that she was both of them were sophomores going to prom, you know. And that's one of those things that just kind of reminded me that one of the things I told just seeing, hey, boys are stupid. Leave them alone.
And
Stay
that
away from them.
was his whole reason for going for Bianca just to retaliate at Cat?
No, he wanted to get some. That's what he wanted.
Well, I mean, I understand that, but like, well, he's too
Because she was
superficial to
hot.
think
That
past that.
that's she was hot.
There's too
That's
super. He's way too superficial.
he's not
I
deep.
mean, I'm sure it was an added bonus, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there was one thing on his mind, no
Yeah.
doubt about it.
And that's why you have that
They
pivot
mentioned
towards
that.
Chastity also at that party.
They mentioned that at some point, didn't they? Didn't Chastity tell her that at prom or something?
Yeah, that he was just wanting to nail you. Yeah, in the
Yeah.
bathroom. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
And so she's with him.
Yeah.
But he's with her. He's with me for
yeah.
deeper emotional reasons.
Yes.
Joey offers to pay Patrick to take Kat to the prom so he can take Bianca. He initially refuses, but relents when Joey offers him more money. Although Kat is still angry with Patrick, he eventually wins her over by serenading her, accompanied by the Padua High School Marching Band with a performance of Can't Take Miles Off You by Frankie Valli. And she returns with the favor by assisting him in sneaking out of detention. Their subsequent date turns romantic, but Kat becomes suspicious when Patrick insists that she accompany him to the prom, which she adamantly opposes. Okay, first off, I have something more important I want to get to, but I just want to add, she becomes suspicious when he insists. He brought it up like one time. I just want to put that out there. He brought that up like one time. He's like, "Go to prom with me," and she's like, "Excuse me, what's in it for you?" I mean, it just turned like on a dime. But to go back, the performance of Heath Ledger and him doing that, the singing with the "Can't Take Miles Off You," and even though it had been a really long time since I'd seen this and I didn't really remember anything about this, I remember this scene vividly.
Yes.
And you can't tell me, and it's unfortunate that Heath Ledger passed away at the young age that he did, because he's a great actor and did a ton of great movies after this. But you can't tell me that this scene is not partially responsible for all the big roles that he got coming out of this, starting with The Patriot, I think, the year after this, and then A Knight's Tale, and then so on.
Yeah, this showed that he wasn't just a pretty face. You have that acting, dancing, even the singing. It wasn't necessarily the greatest scene, but it was still, he commanded the camera. And it just kind of showed there, and it is a great scene, just from the get go. The when they show him paying off the band guy, and then you see the mic being picked up, and then the audio stuff being tuned up, and then he comes sliding down. I mean, what guy wouldn't like to have the nerves of steel to do something like that, not worry about making a complete fool out of yourself to do something like that, and that's it's one of those every girl wants him and every guy wants to be him type of thing, and it shows right there.
Yeah, you also get some more of those interactions with Patrick, and then Cameron whatever the other one's name is, I can't remember. And like the
Michael.
lunch line, yeah, and the lunch line where he's,
Don't
hey,
say
don't
so
talk to me like that, man. And then he gets done, and like Cameron says something to him, and he walks off, and hey, man, don't talk to him like that, you know. But there was something that I completely forgot to mention back when all this originally started when he was talking about doing the first date. He was like, $20, $30, and then Patrick said something that I thought was, I'm gonna take her to the movies, and movie tickets are, those are gonna be $12. And the popcorn's gonna be $53. And something else is gonna be $100. And I'm sitting there thinking, nowadays it's probably not very far from accurate.
Yeah, but he jumped from 15 to like 53 very quickly.
Yeah, he really did. Yeah.
So from what we saw, he collected at least $450 off of Joey. I started writing that down.
He had to because he bought that guitar at the end. That guitar probably wasn't cheap.
Yeah, a Fender Strat is not cheap.
Well, he also had to buy Letters of Cleo to show up at prom. He had to pay off the band too, so he's not making any money off this.
No,
anyways,
he didn't.
Which also in between these or whatever, we have the
detention scene,
the title scene, the title of this movie setup, where the teacher sets up the rapping. He's rapping Shakespeare, and he talks about the sonnet, so that leads to her poem later on. And also the archery scene where Bianca gets distracted and shoots the coach in the backside, with an arrow. Poor coach. I mean, he got traumatized for a lot of different things, So, and I like the quote that leads to the song too from Cameron, sacrifice yourself on the altar of dignity and settle the score. That's kind of being a good friend there. And in our useless Ernie Ferguson facts, this is the third Batman villain to sing I Love You Baby. Christopher Walken, Michelle Pfeiffer, who were both bad men. They were both bad guys in the Batman Returns, and then Heath Ledger. All three of them were bad guy villains in a Batman movie, and all three of them in different movies. Christopher Walken sang it in Deer Hunter. Michelle Pfeiffer sang it in the Fabulous Baker Boys, and then this one was Heath Ledger. You are welcome.
I don't know what I would have done in my life without that knowledge.
I'm here to make you.
Genuinely changed my life.
It should.
Apparently, I need to be smarter because I can't say words tonight. So, hoping my editors at work don't listen to this because they might fire me.
Well, you don't have to speak the words; you just have to talk them out.
Yeah, you're in print, so I mean that's different.
Okay.
I will tell you one thing that I did like about this movie that I appreciated pretty continually out was the callbacks to a lot of the jokes. Like with the fact that when the coach got shot in her ear, and like later on in detention, that he goes to sit down and he pops back up because he forgot. Like earlier with the with Michael coming up to Cameron or Patrick in the bar and asking, hey, can you be drinking when you don't have a liver? And then later on when at prom or whatever, when they're talking and he's telling her all the rumors that. He's like, I know, I wasn't in jail for a year. I was just up here with my uncle or granddad or whoever it was, like I appreciate the fact that all of the jokes, like they either resolve themselves in the movie, or they continue on. Like the teacher rolling his eyes every time Kat starts to talk, or even
when he kicks her out of the class.
Yeah. And he legitimately hates everybody. Legitimately hates everybody in this movie. When the Doobie Brothers over there start talking, it's just like, don't get me started on you. But even like he doesn't pick out any of the pretty kids or the popular kids. Like I really appreciated that little bit of comedy that was kept up with throughout the movie.
Are we not going to talk about the detention scene?
Is that in this?
What?
No, I thought it's right after. Well,
the detention scene's in this part because she helps him sneak out because he goes in detention for singing that song, which doesn't really.
And she returns the favor by assisting him in sneaking out of detention.
Yeah, let's talk about how she assists him. In what universe can you show your boobs to a teacher and not get any consequences whatsoever?
Or
It
get him
goes back to
fired.
my thing. It goes back to what me and Ferg were saying earlier. It's against her entire personality choice.
Well,
That doesn't
okay,
make
but
sense.
okay. Let me say this though. This I get what you're saying, but whereas the whole like she turning him down when he wouldn't kiss her when she was intoxicated, that didn't make sense. Here, this is her falling for him, and so she's coming out of her character because he and now obviously her showing her boobs, maybe that's a little bit too much, but she doing this is her coming out of this character because she's genuinely falling for him, and that's part of the movie.
Just like him not smoking anymore. That's him breaking his character also. But this goes back to what I said at the very beginning about where I had to go into this movie. One, it is Shakespeare type redone, but also this is a teenage movie. Just like, American Pie, broadcasting, potential sexual act over the internet. Yeah, that's not illegal at all. But again, it's one of those things where it, it this is done for a cheap laugh. It didn't really work for me. I'm sorry. To me, I would think she would do something smarter. She wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
It just, and also, why not turn the coach around and have Patrick go out the door? The door was closer to his seat, anyways. So it's one of those things where, okay, it is what it is. It's a scene. Again, the coach was the funniest part where he grabbed the weed, he grabbed the Cheetos. I'm confiscating that. Then he couldn't sit down because he got shot with an arrow in the butt. So the coach is the whole the best part of the scene, and the flashing was just one of those oh my goodness type of moments. But then it was like okay.
So, irritated at not being asked to the prom by Cameron, Bianca accepts Joey's invitation, but Walter declines to allow it unless Kat accompanies her. Kat confesses to Bianca that she dated Joey when they were freshmen and, succumbing to peer pressure, had sex with him, later regretting it. After Joey dumped her, she vowed against doing anything out of peer pressure. Again, Bianca insists that she can decide her own life, so Kat agrees to attend the prom with Patrick, and Bianca decides to go with Cameron instead of Joey. At the prom, Bianca learns that Joey planned to have sex with her that night. Angry that Bianca has spurned him for Cameron, Joey reveals his arrangement with Patrick, which causes Kat to leave. Heartbroken, Joey then shoves Michael and punches Cameron, but Bianca then assaults him for having hurt her. Kat and Cameron, Bianca and Cameron share another kiss.
They just completely skipped over the whole scene with the dad and Bianca on the porch while he's working out.
Or
I think no. That's in the next paragraph.
No, this is the part with him where he was talking about getting jiggy with it and all that kind. He was trying to act like the youth of America and just using all that type of current lingo. That just was like, it was, as the kids nowadays would say, it was cringe.
Sorry, go ahead. You go ahead.
So we know this entire movie that there's like an ulterior motive or meaning to Kat's character and about why the way that she is. So we feel you get that feeling that eventually you're gonna find out, and we do find out here. Were you guys underwhelmed a little bit? Was it kind of what you were expecting? I was expecting it a little bit to be a little like I don't know. They brought up the mom one time, which I don't really know. Like, did the mom did they
She
divorce?
Yeah,
See,
she
yeah,
left.
okay. So I didn't know if that was gonna have something to do with it, but I don't know. I thought it was a little underwhelming, like her reasoning, but I guess it makes sense. Although to get to be, I guess, give him to peer pressure that much, and then have build your whole character about not doing anything that anyone ever expects of you ever again because of this is a little bit, especially as a freshman, it's a bit much.
I I don't know because there are certain things that you see kids go through and you see their personality change as being at schools, and it could be. And again, the reason that she did it, not just because everybody else was doing it, but it was a reaction to mom leaving too. So that was twofold emotional kind of 1-2 punch. Mom left, so the reaction was okay. Everybody else is having sex, so she's going to jump in and have sex too. Even though she did kind of have a little bit of the last laugh on Joey saying that if he told anybody that she would tell the cheerleaders that he had a small dinghy.
Remember?
So there was that. What the sad part about this for me was how she just finally poured her heart out to Bianca, and Bianca was like, "You screwed me over. I can't have fun because of this. I don't have my opportunity to make bad decisions, basically." And I was like, man, that just hurts right there, you know?
Yeah, I didn't really. There's a lot of things that Bianca did throughout this that I didn't really understand. Like when she's talking to Cameron when they're doing the French class, and it's very obvious that he doesn't understand what she's saying, which goes back to that scene does go back to my continued jokes where the French book has the whole cutout in the pages. Um, but like there was that, and then there was the whole thing with like she's talking about with this, but it, it's one of those things where I think I have to kind of write it off as they're teenagers. Like I'm coming at this with somebody who's almost 30 years old now, who has a developed prefrontal cortex. I'm looking at this and thinking, wow, like that their decisions don't really make a lot of sense. But when I think back to when I was a teenager and think about some of the decisions that I made,
Hmm.
that I'm like, I probably was this dramatic about very minor things that inconvenience
Oh
me in
yeah,
my life.
because you're very, as a teenager, you're very me centric. Me, I
Hmm.
am the center of the world, and so it is catastrophic when you have, you know, different type of things happening to you. And that's, and you see that in all these different characters, whether it's like Cameron in the car to Bianca, and how Bianca reacts about not about her social life being kind of ended. You see that because again, that's the way teenagers are.
And so we get to the point where I kind of brought up this earlier, where you know it's going to happen, where eventually you're going to have that moment where Bianca's going to find out that Patrick was paid to do this, and things are going to kind of come crashing down. We get this a lot, and especially teen movies that we grew up in, where you get this character. He's done something, but it's like it's a secret. Nobody really knows that he's done it yet, and a lot of times when you're growing up, it makes you think they're stupid because they'll come clean, and you're like, you really could have just kept that to yourself and it would have been okay and nobody would have ever found out. In this case, it's kind of flipped. He doesn't come clean, but he probably should have, because I mean, it was just way too easy for that information to come out, because obviously if Joey gets mad, he's going to tell Kat, which he did. And
Yeah.
so, like, I feel like if he had come, so it's a little funny that it's a little flipped in that regard. But Dakota, I don't know if you remember that. Do you kind of remember those movies where it's like, someone comes clean and you're like, what? You probably could have kept that to yourself and it would have been okay.
Yeah. Like I understand the honesty part of it. Like I understand like, oh, you're wanting to be completely clean with them, but like, you know, that's one of those things that you say like when you've been together for 15 years and you're like, hey, can you remember?
Mm.
After you've already nailed that down,
Nailed it down, you got it secured,
I'm sure this won't start
Oh,
a fight.
man.
yeah.
No,
Oh,
don't do that. Oh, goodness. Y'all are making me hurt right now.
yeah.
Just like I've had this on my chest 15 years. It's got to come out now.
Oh, no, no,
I
no,
tell
no,
you,
no.
this brings it, in my opinion, though, this brings us to Patrick's worst decision in this whole movie.
I agree. I think I know where you're going,
Bro,
and I agree.
dude, like if you're sitting there trying to convince a girl that, you know, you legitimately like her and you legitimately want to be with her, and that, while maybe it did start as a gimmick at first, but now like you realize that you actually have deeper feelings, why in the world are you going to grab her by the face and try to kiss her?
Yeah.
When
Oh,
when has that
but don't,
ever
but,
worked?
but don't forget, that is heinous there. But before she finds out and she apologizes to him for being, skeptical of him, and he says, I forgive you. So not only did
Yeah,
he forgive
Yeah.
her,
yeah,
then yes,
hmm
oh, okay, that's like telling like your wife getting upset and you tell her to calm down. Oh, really? That's going to be a
hmm
successful thing to say to her. That's like, yes, I'm
What are
going
you
to kiss you
What are you
because
talking
me,
about? That works 100% of the time. I don't know what you
yeah,
mean.
I'm sure it does for you. Then,
If,
you know,
if you've met my wife, you know it
I
does
would say
not. Telling her to
that's
calm down is
no,
probably like I could just like
no,
I would be better to call her call her some names or words or something.
Yeah, so I mean, he screwed up twice there, which
Yeah.
again leads to how quickly that cat forgives him. And I guess maybe it wasn't too quick, but to me it seemed quick towards the end of the movie. But what I love about the whole prom scene was Bianca now becomes my number one favorite because she spins Joey around one, two, knees to the cojones, and he's going down. And if I'm Cameron, I'm like, yeah, that's my girl right there. And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. That she just, I mean, absolutely annihilates him. And I'm like, that's good for her because she stopped being adored, and now this is where she truly cares. Shows how she cares for her sister, even though I think she may have said her date first and then her sister. I can't remember which one. So I guess he did it for Cameron first.
I also like, and I know this is in the next paragraph. We haven't got to it yet, but I liked her dad's response to that.
Mm,
When you would think that after everything that he would be upset about her getting in a fight, but then he's actually like, no, like I'm really proud or impressed or something like that. That she stood up for herself. She stood up for what she believed in. You
yeah,
know,
when we read the next paragraph, I'll go into something else about the dad too. But also, here's my appreciation for ska music. I like ska music. I always have liked ska music, and having Save Ferris on there, do shout. I was like, all right, that's that. I can handle that. I'm good with that.
You like what music?
Oh my goodness, ska, ska. It's uh the trumpets and stuff like that in the background. Uh, it's a very
oh, it's like
niche type of
Jamaican Creole type
kind of
music.
like Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. If you've heard that, oh my goodness, y'all are
It
killing me.
originated in Jamaica in the late '50s and was a
Yeah,
precursor
but
to
then it's a bunch of white
rocksteady
people.
and reggae.
Yeah, it's a bunch of white people doing their version of reggae without sounding like they're reggae. The music is kind of reggae-ish, but it's kind of like punk music and reggae mixed together. So a bunch of white people trying to be reggae.
Well, Ernie, I'm very educated on 70s, 80s, 90s for someone that was born in 1996, but I can't know everything.
Well, I mean, sometimes I just weep for the future, and that's one of these times I'm shedding a tear, not knowing
Because
what
we don't
ska
know
music.
ska music.
Yes, it's just, I mean, where y'all need your plaids, and y'all need your bow ties, and y'all need the horns, and let's go have a band of like 900 people in your band, and just one guy is just sitting back there in the background. And all he does is just dance, and I mean, not
Hey,
good dancing, like white guy dancing, and that's his job in the band. He doesn't play an instrument, he doesn't sing, he just dances, and that's all he does.
Let
That's
me tell you,
I can see
there's a
that's
lot.
Dakota's job right there. He can just do that,
Absolutely,
just
it
dance.
is.
bow ties were huge when I was in high school. That
Yeah,
they
oh,
were
absolutely,
that
they
was a
were.
phase that came through when we were in high school.
Yep.
I remember doing tying a bow tie for my demonstration speech in speech class.
I was about to
So
ask,
Nice.
did you tie it or did you have a clip on?
no, I could actually tie it.
Uh,
I could tie a bow tie. It was a pain. It was not
uh,
as easy like tying a regular tie, but yeah, I could tie it.
I don't know that I could do it now, but yeah, it was definitely a. You could. There was a doing it, and then there was a doing it and making it look good, and that was difficult.
Well, the following day, Bianca reconciles with Kat and begins dating Cameron. Comfortable that Kat can handle herself, Walter permits her to attend Sarah Lawrence College for an assignment in which the students were tasked to write their own versions of William Shakespeare's Sonnet 141. Kat reads aloud a poem she composed entitled 10 Things I Hate About You, revealing that she still loves and cares for Patrick. He surprises her with a Fender Stratocaster that he brought with the money that Joey paid him and confesses that he has fallen for her. Kat forgives him and they reconcile with a kiss. So I have something that I want to say about the about Kat and Patrick, but first I want to go to Ernie, what you want to say about the dad.
So just listening to the dad's thoughts at the end here. One, you know, the feeling of abandonment that he has already by losing his wife who left him. That leads into, this fear of losing his daughters, but the when he said that as parents we've become spectators in our children's life. Y'all are way far away from that. My daughter is 24, she's going to be turning 24. And that hit home 100% of, when she was at home and in high school, I had a lot more influence, a lot more say so and all that kind of stuff. But now I'm just like, I have to sit back and watch your life, and it's just in that as a parent, man, that's just so hard to do, because you want your child to have good things. You want good things to happen to your child, but then when you see bad things happen to them, you can't do anything about it. You try to do the best you can. And that's when, he has been he has been the let's make fun of dad, the overprotective dad, the goofy dad the whole entire time. But then, and this last scene that we get with him, to me, it really, as far as a dad wise, it really hit home when he talked about just being a spectator in his kid's life.
Yeah, I loved how kind of supportive he was throughout the whole thing, and and I really think that they kind of painted the picture between like a parent and a child in this movie really well. With the overprotective dad who did have his wife who left, and he doesn't want to see his kids leave, and so he's obviously overprotective of them and doesn't want to see bad things happen to them, and then the kids being the angsty teenagers and
Mm-hmm.
arguing with them, but also kind of showing that like how much your kids can actually hurt you. And I think of the comment that Kat made to him that he wants to make all the decisions for their lives because he can't control anything in his life.
Yep.
And I know that obviously, I mean, I don't have kids, but I can imagine that would cut pretty deep coming from a kid. A third party is one thing, but if it comes from somebody so close to you.
Yeah.
But even throughout the whole thing of him still showing that he's doing this because he loves his kids, and even if he is afraid of the decisions his kids were made and afraid of his kids going out on their own, that he still wants to support them and love them and care for them in that. And I thought it was a good portrayal of a father and a daughter.
Yeah.
So we get to the part where we get the title 10 Things I Hate About You, which is the poem that she reads aloud, and obviously she gets emotional, and we go through the whole thing with the guitar, and she forgives him. Ernie, you brought this up about her forgiving him too fast, and I get where you're coming from with that, but I watched this Sunday night, so I've had some time to think about this, and I feel like if they had like a conversation like after she finds out at prom, and he chases her out, and they have like a conversation, and she forgives him there, it would have been. But this is a few days later or so. I don't know how many days later, but I would
Yeah, that's the
imagine
question
if
there. Yeah.
a few days later. So she's had some time to think, and we talked about this throughout the whole movie. I mean, he's done so much for her. I mean, just to prove how much he loves her, and how much he cares about her. Just with what he did at prom, getting the band to be there. I mean, the whole performance. I mean, what dude is doing that for a girl he doesn't like? And so I think the poem she reads kind of shows the emotion, like,
Mm-hmm.
you really hurt me, but I still love you. And I think she realizes that, and just I feel like the guitar. I mean, I feel like at that point she's like already kind of forgiven him. Like, yeah, okay, maybe you did do this to start being paid, but like you really grew to love me. And the guitar kind of sends it over the top, because obviously, I mean, a high school kid buying a guitar like that. I mean, my dad collects them, so he could probably tell you. But I mean, I don't.
Oh, to be fair, the Fender Strat is only going to be like nowadays like $500 to $600.
Yeah, but for a high school kid, that's a lot.
He
Well, I
had
mean,
four
dude's
hundred and
made
fifty
bank
bucks
though.
from Joey.
He had some extra money to spend.
Yeah, but I
So
mean,
should the "I love you, baby" thing should that have been the reconciliation at the end instead of buying the guitar?
no, I don't think so. Just because, well, for one, I feel like that's over the top. Like that's like I feel like that's kind of like an over the top thing, like to do when you're trying to make up with somebody. Whereas when he was doing that to try to really get her attention, I don't.
Fair.
But
Yeah,
I feel like the guitar thing is more of, because that's her one being a band. That's kind of like a thing that she's only told him at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Fair.
know, he sees her with the guitar in the music store. I mean, he doesn't go up to her in the music store, so she doesn't know
Yeah.
he was there. So I feel like that's just the thing where it's like, hey, it's not just about the money he spent on the guitar, but it's like I'm willing to put. I spent this money because not just because I care about you and because I'm trying to make up with you, but because I believe in you and you can go do this dream with me. So I feel like it was a good conciliation. I like the way. I think if they had done the performance for him trying to make up, it wouldn't have hit as.
Well, it
Yeah, I
also,
think that "I Love You, Baby" played its own part. You
yeah.
know, like you said you mentioned the quote earlier with like she's publicly humiliated herself for you, like even the score. I think that it kind of played its part where it
Well,
was.
well, I think also it plays into, again, just because I'm old, go figure that women like you to listen to them, and actually pay attention. And the very first night, whenever they were coming back from the party, she said that's what she wants to do, is she wants to be in a band. So that goes back to him truly listening to her, and so that it becomes a more thoughtful gift, as opposed to like y'all said, like the singing and dancing, because that was just a peacock thing to try to get, attention. But the poem itself, again, the two back to back emotional parts, the emotional parts with Dad and Cat, and then Cat's poem, were just that to me was a great sequence, because Kat was hit with emotion by her dad. She's already, which it feels like she's been lacking from him, and then she has this conflicted emotions about Patrick too, and so I thought that was, I really liked how they doubled down on that.
Right. Dakota, anything to add before we go on to or finish up the reading and go on to our rankings?
Not that I can remember right now.
Well, we're finishing it up right now, so if you can't remember right now, I mean, that's that. Unless you plan on bringing it up next week in whatever movie
I was about to say I'll bring it up next week.
We're like 30 minutes into next week's podcast, and Dakota's like, I just thought, like,
one, I have never seen a high school that looks like that in my entire life, and that is a true high school in Tacoma, Washington. And you got to be kidding me. That is one. You tell me I got to run 5 flights of stairs to get to a class or something like that. I'm like, man, that is like a college building. I thought that was crazy in itself.
You know that Decatur High School has a sky bridge that goes between the buildings, right?
Yeah, but
In
it
the city
doesn't
of
look
Decatur?
like it's a medieval type of stones and things like Gothic type of architecture on the Puget Sound,
I am.
But
so
also,
what you're saying is there could be vampires here, which
heck
means
yeah.
Blade was there.
I mean, just think how this works out. You have Letters of Cleo playing on the roof of the school, and instead of them finishing up, Dino Brown comes out, turns into Blade, and wipes them out. Cutscene.
It's a great finish. That should be an alternate ending. All right.
See, now you're even bringing Dino Brown into this and Blade into this. So.
I thought if I get out in front of it, then
you take the sting out of it for me, huh?
Exactly. All right, so that's the end of that'll be of the movie. I guess it's time to move on to rankings. Ernie, I know it's your movie, but I'll go first. Unless you just are dying.
No,
to
you
first.
go. That's fine.
Well, like I said, it had been a long time since I'd seen this, but I was pretty excited to watch it when you brought it up. Just because one, I absolutely love Heath Ledger and everything that he's in, everything that I've seen he's in. I don't think I've seen all of his movies, but everything it is. But I mean, this movie just brings me back to my childhood. Because, like I said, I mean, there's just so much influence onto every single teen movie that I watched growing up. Even if obviously this is not as clean as something I might have watched on Disney Channel or something. There's still a lot of the things that I could see in the movies I watched taken from this. So I really enjoyed it. It has a great cast. It's funny. It's a great, it's just, there's a reason why it still holds up 26 years later. Yeah, I think that's right, because my wife turns 25 today. Happy birthday, sweetheart, by the way. And she was born in 2000, so this is 1999. So did that math right there. 26 years later.
All right, let's quit stalling.
It's not stalling.
No, you gotta. It's her birthday. You gotta give a shout out to her.
Yeah,
I'm picking at him.
Sucking up is what he's doing, but neither here nor there.
But no, I really did enjoy the movie. And I think I'm gonna go 8.5 is where I'm gonna go.
You go ahead, Ferg.
All right. Like I said, I've seen bits and pieces of it. I hadn't seen the whole entire thing. And I watched it twice. I watched it first Sunday night, then I watched it today again. And the second go around, I liked it a lot better than I did the first go around, and I don't know why. Again, the Julia Stiles character, not necessarily the character, but the way Julia Stiles played it at some points, I was like, I don't particularly care for. Again, Heath Ledger, I really like doses of Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Cameron, I kind of it was all right. Again, Bianca's character, I really like that. I don't know because I'm torn because to me again, and here's one of the problems, the universal problems in my head is that I'm looking at 16 Candles, I'm looking at Pretty in Pink, I'm looking at Can't Hardly Wait, and thinking of those movies and trying to judge it off that, and so I've kind of had to erase my mind a little bit. I did enjoy it. I don't know if it's as great as what people think. So I'm going 7.75.
And
All
I
right.
think, real quick before Dakota goes, I think there you can definitely see the difference in, obviously, 16 Candles, like you mentioned, that's a teen movie for when you were a
Yes.
teen growing up.
Oh yeah.
Whereas this is more our generation, so you see, you can see the differences. Whereas, and Dakota might make me completely wrong here and give this like a 6 or something, but I feel like our generation is more likely to rank this higher than your generation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't doubt that at all. It just the some parts of like Breakfast Club, to me that is a lot better movie. This had bits and pieces parts of it that I really kind of liked. In other words, I'm just like, So again, just the movie wise, but again, I still liked it. I still enjoyed myself watching it. I don't know if I would watch it again, but 7.75. That is actually my original was going to be 7.25, so I did raise it up some.
Well, I will tell you, Vern, whether I want to or not, I probably will be watching this movie again at some point due
Oh
to my
yes, you
wife.
don't have a choice.
I'm actually kind
So,
of worried for you because your ranking might decide whether you sleep in the bed or sleep on the couch tonight. Or no, she'll wait to listen to it. So whenever she listens to it, it might decide that night whether you're sleeping on the couch or sleeping in the bed.
yeah, my repercussions will come either Thursday or Friday night, depending on how quickly she listens to this. I will say this: I'm not ranking it as high as Kamei did. I don't. I'm not going to do that.
What did she rank it, by the way?
Let me tell you,
Broke the
title.
scale.
Yeah, title sequence came up, like the credits come up or whatever. She said this is a 9.5 in her book. She loves Heath Ledger, loves Joseph Gordon-Levitt. She absolutely loves this movie. Yeah. So, as far as my ranking goes, though, I mean, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed this movie. I mean, like I said, it is a teen rom-com, and Command made me watch this, once or twice before. So I mean, I've seen it a few times. I think going into it now, I've paid more attention to like plot holes and things like that. In times past that I've watched it, I haven't really thought that much about it, and I think if I don't think about it, I enjoy it a lot more than when I do think about it. When I actually pay attention to like Julia Stiles' character choices and the plan and all this other type of stuff. That I, I feel like when I don't think about it, I enjoy it more. That's not saying that I didn't enjoy it this time. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the comedy. I enjoyed the, overall, I like the idea of the plot and everything. And with that, I was going to give it an 8, but I will give it an 8.25 as a bump for Kamei.
The wife bump.
And yeah, the 0.25 is going to be the wife bump.
So that's an 8.5 for me, a 7.75 for Ernie, and an 8.25 for Dakota. That averages out to an 8.16 repeating. Ernie, where does that land us? Or
So
actually, it's
that
8.17. So
so
Ernie, where
that
does that land us?
that puts it at a tie with Friday Night Lights and Bad Boys at that would be I believe like
17.
18. I'll have to redo the numbers. The numbers are jacked up, but it's somewhere around the 18 level. So
I think it's
uh
17 actually.
it is below something happened here with my rankings. Again, I'll have to look at this. It's below Batman and First Blood and above Twister, but it is tied with Friday Night Lights and Bad Boys. So that's where
Man,
we're at right there.
I'm just the captain of mid apparently, because or like not mid, but pretty good, because all there was like you mentioned like 5 movies there, and all 4 of them were my choices. So
Yeah.
the eights are where I dominate. That's my area of expertise.
Which is
As we
ironic because you have given the most nines out. I know that it was different from earlier this year,
Yeah.
but you have given out the most nines. You hate giving any sevens out, by the way.
Yeah,
You
which is
absolutely not refuse, but whereas I'm the king of sevens, I throw seven somethings out there left and right.
all
I
right.
feel like I have
So
a pretty good array though.
we,
Like I
we've
have
we've we've done one over what you are, Dakota. You are either boom or bust, because your movies are either are
uh
nines or the worst possible picks. But all right, so that's an 8.17. That puts us at Ernie thinks 17 on our list, tied with Bad Boys and Friday Night Lights. If you would like to see that full rankings, and hopefully it'll be completely updated so we'll know exactly where it lands. But if you would like to see that, you can go check out our website, podpage.com/classic blockbusters. That is podpage.com/classic blockbusters. You can see our rankings on there. You can see our movies, our current episode, all our episodes actually, with nice little movie posters, so you can pick out which one you want to listen to. If you can write to us if you want to. Um, you can check out our Facebook page as well. It's Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or YouTube. Um, all right, I guess it's time to pick the next movie pick. And I pulled a Dakota, completely forgot that it was my pick. And it threw me off because we're recording on Tuesday. We normally record on Wednesday. But
yeah.
I know that our podcast has been generally pre 2000 with 90s, 80s, and 70s. But I would really like to go 2000s. I just have a feeling to watch a 2000s movie. You know, that's our generation, Ernie. And hey, it's 2025. Early 2000s movies are classics at this point.
Hey, I'm
They're
glad that me and Dakota follow the rules of the podcast. Just saying, you're the only one that's bumping into the 2000s. Just you
what
know,
when did we ever decide that there was a rule?
again, that was the whole premise behind the podcast, wasn't it? I mean,
The
because
premise is a classic movie podcast. I mean, at this point, look, if a movie is old enough to legally drink, it can be considered a classic movie. And with that being said, having watched 10 Things I Hate About You, I did not get enough of Heath Ledger. And I would really like to watch another Heath Ledger movie. And since we haven't done a war movie yet, we are going to do The Patriot from 2000. And Ernie, I'm sorry, you will have.
2000 flies.
Well, it very easily could have been a 2003 movie. It was almost a 2003 movie, but
I was very okay with your 2003 movie.
yeah, sorry, buddy, but I changed my mind just because I really wanted to see some more Heath Ledger.
What's
But
the night movie or whatever? What is it
no,
that we're?
no, what it was no, it was going to be Pirates of the Caribbean, but I changed
Oh,
my
okay.
mind because I wanted to watch something with Heath Ledger. But
You can watch this for free as well, though. You can watch
There you go.
you can watch The Patriot on Roku channel. You did pick a long movie though.
well, we somebody had to crack that egg. Eventually, we had to come to a movie that was more than 2 hours. So we'll make it through. You'll be fine. We're all history buffs. It'll be good. It'll be nice. So, all right, Mel Gibson. So that's the movie we'll be doing next week. It has Keith Ledger in it, but obviously he's not the main star. That's Mel Gibson, and it also has Jonathan Isaacs in it.
Yes.
I'm looking. It's a good movie. I don't know if Dakota, have you seen it?
I don't think I have.
I think you'll like it. You're a history guy like me and Ernie, so I feel like
Yeah.
you'll. But Ernie, he said you can watch it for free. I thought you had to rent it, so Maybe you'll
You
be
watch
able
it
to
on
watch it
Roku
free.
channel.
Although I'm sure if there's a place to find it for free, Ernie Ferguson will find it.
Yes, I will.
But all right, so 10 Things I Hate About You, it comes out to an 8.17. The next week's movie will be The Patriot. Again, happy birthday to my very sweet wife. She turned 25 today. And anything to add?
No, we'll just see you at the movies next time.